good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of SportsView on NerdMedia.tv. And all the information is going along there in front of the screen if you can see it. info@NerdMedia.tv is our email for any of your comments. And you can come live into the studio if there's something sporting on your mind that you want to get off your chest. Well, there you go. You just let us know, send me your details, and you can come in here with myself and Carol for the time being. We have a few more lined up. I don't know what time they'll be coming in. But anyway, I'm delighted to have Carol J. Ashley in the studio at the moment. Good evening, Carol, and welcome.
Evening, Pat. Thanks for having me along.
Oh, no, my pleasure, Carol. And Carol, of course, might as well get some stuff out of the way first. He's a Man City fan. Okay, lads, there's no need to switch off the program now. We won't be coming to that straight away.
The long-suffering Blue Bloods.
Yeah, well, it had been a long time from the time of Mike Summerby and all those wonderful players.
Yeah, the last decade's been fairly kind to us, Pat.
Yeah? Oh, it has, yeah, indeed, that's right, yeah. Well, money does that, I suppose, when you look at it. But Carol, we're going to start off, Carol, first of all, with cricket, because you could tell us yourself, are you a cricket umpire or official? Tell me, I'm after forgetting. I wrote it down somewhere, but my piece of paper.
Well, I'm an umpire for Munster Cricket. I've done my coaching courses and qualifications, and I'm available to umpire cricket matches for Munster this summer.
And of course, as we were saying before we came on air, Carol, there was a nice bit of tradition of cricket dotted around the country. In Ireland, I'm talking about now. Of course, because I'm from Cork, I would am aware of the Mardai Cricket Club in Cork City, being a bastion of cricket for years. And the same as we said, in Newtown, in Waterford as well, was a good centre as well. But we were just chatting there. I heard a few years ago about a cricket team in Clare in Shannon, but you were telling me that they're resurrecting the team again. Are they in Shannon?
Apparently, yeah. I met the lads there a couple of weekends ago down in Kerry, and one or two of them recognised me despite me growing the beard from 10 years ago. And the lads, we had our inaugural tour. Clare Cricket went to Malaga, played a match in the south of Spain, a couple of matches actually.
Yeah.
And that was a historical occasion. And lo and behold, a couple of lads 10 years later are trying to rekindle and resurrect Clare Cricket, but they need a home ground and some backing in the business community, you know.
So County Clare, they have the players, as you said, Carl. They have the enthusiasm, they have the interest. So you just need to spread the word and mobilise a bit of interest in them from both the business and the local authority as well, you know, and get cracking there. To be another outlet for people, you know, anything sporting is a healthy pursuit anyway. But you were saying to me there, the Limerick Cricket Club, are they based out in Adair?
Yeah, they've basically took a corrugated iron shed, like a porter cabin type thing, an outfield generator, and a field, and have turned things around. They've got 4 teams all competing in the Munster leagues. Limerick themselves got to the final of an all-Ireland club competition, and Limerick are a massive success story in the context of Munster cricket these days, challenging the established aristocracy of Cork and Harlequins there.
Yeah.
And you know, they've done very well, but you do need a bit of sponsorship, you do need a bit of backing and a bit of goodwill in the local community. But you're right, it's about getting kids off the streets and getting up to no good and getting them involved in sport and the team sport, so they build camaraderie and you know, any form of exercise is better than just sitting around on digital devices, right?
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And of course, I mean, we had I was talking to you before we came on air about I only have a very limited understanding of cricket, and I get confused. Probably that's old age, but more than anything else. But there is a difference, obviously, in the scoring procedure between the 1 day and, as you said, the 5-day test. Of course, England had a win over New Zealand. Was that concluded on Monday? I think they beat New Zealand by 7 wickets. So they had a reasonable win over. New Zealand would be strong enough cricket-wise, wouldn't it?
They would, but you've got the test match there played today at Edgbaston between England and India, day one. So the match in the series against New Zealand's already a memory at this stage.
Yeah.
And England are looking very strong. They've adapted a team to a kind of a high-octane, swashbuckling style, more like the one-day game than the normally quite serene and prosaic 5-day game. But India are a good match. They'll give as good as they get, and they'll hit back. You know, they're exciting team with exciting players.
And they beat Ireland up in Malahide, India, recently. Was it a one-day thing by 4 runs? You know,
must have been a close game. So yeah, that would have been a close game. So.
Yeah, that was last Tuesday, I think, as far as I know. I was just reading up. I heard the report on the radio on it. That's just where I piqued my interest. But also then, of course, would Australia now be a stronghold of cricket as well? You know, they're pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of the teams that are well established, they come and go in terms of dominance. India are always quite strong. Australia are always quite strong. England can flip between being quite strong and quite weak. At the moment, they're quite strong. Most of the interest is in the one-day format of the game and the World Cup and the IPL, where it's all about smashing the ball out the ground and as I say, the high-octane swashbuckling style. The 5-day game, like a lot of Irish guys I would have met and spoken to, they thought it was quite quaint that you could play a game for 5 days and still have a draw at the end of it with no clear winner. Those days are seemingly gone. And it's always weather affected as well. As there's a lot of subplots in cricket. There's a lot of other things going on other than what's immediately apparent. So depending on the level of the viewer, there's plenty of entertainment depending on where you're coming from, you know.
And just to finish, not finish, but if you're playing a 5-day test, say between England and who are they playing now at the moment? Sri Lanka, is it? I forget who they're playing.
India today's game, New Zealand last week, yeah.
Yeah, and if there's a 5-day test, now if a day gets washed out completely, there's no play can be happening. Does that revert into a 4-day test?
It would, yes, but there are contingency rules. So if a result is still possible with an hour to play, they can come back on an extra day. And if there's an hour available and the weather's permitting, they can actually, both captains apply to the umpires to play an extra hour if a result is possible.
Oh, have you? Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed.
Any game with 96 pages of rules can be very difficult to fathom, even for the umpires.
Well, now that you said 96 pages of rules, I was thinking to myself, and all the controversy as well across VAR and soccer.
The laws of cricket, there you go. 96 pages. Incredible.
96 pages of rules. Yeah. Well, that would do my head in anyway. The ball is either in or out, but it's never that simple, as you say. It was either before your leg if it wasn't. Well, look, we're talking about soccer as well. So look at VAR. VAR has destroyed soccer, you know, at a high level. It's completely destroyed it. It's taking away the humanity from it, you know. You won't need a ref now at all in soccer or linesman or anything. Just go up there to that television and have a look at it, lads. It's gone farcical in my mind. What do you think?
I think the jury's still out on the video analysis, the VAR. I think in rugby union, they deployed it very sensibly, where they would call the ref over and say, look, check this decision for us. They wouldn't hold the game up too much, and the umpire would make a call audibly so that there was accountability to both the captains of both teams. With the football, with the soccer, It goes to Stockley Park or wherever, and the referee is invited to go over, and there's all this mystique and lack of transparency. It doesn't seem to have helped the game at all.
No, I mean, for instance, I mean, Man City, Liverpool, and all in the Premiership, and then when the FA Cup happens, there's no VAR. Because Man City can come down to, I don't know, Chesterfield and get beaten 1-0 in a controversial penalty. Do you know what I mean? There's no VAR or something like that. So I really think that it has to go out of the game, in my opinion. It has to go out of it. You know? I think we have a referee and we have 2 more referees on the line. And haven't we a spare person as well looking at the game, or some spare referee? I don't know. It's an assessor, is it?
And do you think they'll have it in the World Cup in Qatar?
VAR, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, that's a standalone competition. So from the get-go, if you have VAR for every single game, which you will have in the World Cup, it's a different kettle of fish, because everybody is subject to the same rules. In soccer in Britain, not every single soccer team is subject to the same rules and regulations anymore, except you're in the Premiership, you have the VAR, and if you're outside of that in Championship, Division 1 and 2, you have different rules. Well, that's the way I look at it, simply like that.
How do you think the likes of Forest and Fulham and the lads that have got promoted will cope?
Well, I'm a traditionalist, if I'm talking to me, and I always loved Nottingham Forest being in the Premiership. And maybe they mightn't last year, but any team that can win the European Cup like they did against the mighty Munich, the mighty Man United, the mighty big teams in all countries, any team like Forest to come out like that and win 2 European Cups. I mean, Carol, in my lifetime, it has been sensational. Sensational as Glasgow Celtic in 67 winning was it 67? Forget now. Winning the European Cup as well, you know, with a local team from Glasgow, you know, which was sensational to me. And so Nottingham Forest won it in that time, you know. And when was it? Was it 86, was it?
79, 80 and 81, I think, with the years that Villa and Forest were shaking up Europe. 86 was Everton's time with Graham Sharp and Howard Kendall and those guys. English teams have quite a pedigree in Europe, but Forest were something else under Brian Clough, right?
Yeah.
Roy Keane had his tutelage under Brian Clough.
Yeah, Forest to me were I don't know who I forget now. Was it Robertson? I forget who the players were.
Robertson. Malmo was, I think it was 79. Trevor Francis.
Trevor Francis, yeah. I love watching him play soccer. But as I said, I love teams. And you talking about the World Cup. Is the World Cup final? I'm just thinking out loud, Carol. I didn't look at the dates. Will the World Cup final be held now when we're sitting down to our Christmas dinner?
I have no idea, right? I saw it started in November, so there will be a break in the Premier League.
Right.
But these are unprecedented times, so who knows what's actually going to go on. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Carl. The program is SportsView with myself, Pat, Barry, and Carol Ashley is in studio with us at the moment, discussing anything and everything. And if you want to join in, info@theirmedia.tv is our email. Send us your details. We'll send you the link if you want to come in and challenge us to our expertise, challenge us to our knowledge. Anyway, there you go. And then for me, don't forget to press the red button to subscribe to our channel and give us a like as well. We want to get our subscribers up to 1,000, and then we'll sky's the limit after that. But Carol, getting back to soccer, as we're discussing soccer, obviously now Mo Salah put pen to paper for another 3 years with Liverpool, so that's done and dusted. All the speculation, all things died down about it. I know whether you're following the transfer news across the board. The only reason I know about it is I'd look it up for this program is that Richarlison is gone to Spurs from.
Saw that, yeah.
But that's no surprise, at all. And Lingard, looks like Lingard's going to Everton. Would you? That'd be a good move for Everton, surely, would it?
I don't know. I think it's hard to get exciting about a guy that couldn't get into Man United's B team. He played well for West Ham, didn't he?
Yeah, he was with West Ham, wasn't he?
He was on loan there and played well enough for them to earn a switch. But I don't know if there was some politics between the clubs or what. But he ended up going back to United and just rotting in the reserves rather than, making the loan move permanent to West Ham. West Ham severely overachieved last season. They were excellent.
They were, and we made a prediction here on SportsView way back. And they were my team. If there was any team going to break into the top four, they were my tip this year to break into the top four, out of the traditional Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and people like that, Chelsea, that if there was any. But anyway, they, as you said, they had a healthy enough season. I think Man United, the club is in utter turmoil. Despite that, they did finish, was it 6th or 7th or something, or 8th? Was it 7th or 8th or something, whatever they did? Despite all of that, and I don't think, I don't know about the new manager now, there's not been much talk about it, which is a positive sign to me, because every other week we had a rumour or a story coming out of the club through the players, which was very disquieting indeed. And I think that there has to be a lot more control of the players as well. You don't hear that chitter chatter coming out of the other clubs, to just get on with it and do their business on the field. In the dressing room after just to be roaring and shouting, it doesn't get out to the press, which is, you can't have it otherwise, Carl. You have to have a strong manager and a manager that's respected. You can't have 2 or 3 prima donnas in any club deciding, to go to the press because of who they are, I think...
surely the big business has been done already with Liverpool signing that Portuguese lad and City getting your man Erling Haaland. Like, it'd be hard to be talking about Jesse Lingard when you've got those transfers.
Well, Haaland's gone to Man City, and Nunes from Benfica to... Yeah,
they like Liverpool and City are strong and they're already strengthening their squads. What message does that send out to the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, United competing for those 3rd and 4th and 5th places? Or are they strong enough to compete for the title?
Yes, and Lukaku has gone the other way. Lukaku has gone to Inter Milan. I don't know, what age is Lukaku? I forgot to look it up anyway. Is he
28, 29?
28, 29. I don't know. I don't think much of him myself, but that's just me, Carol, I don't think much of him myself.
There's talk Raheem Sterling is on his way to Chelsea, Pat.
I heard that, but there was talk. I think, what's the word I'm looking for there? Initially, when I heard on the wires, I follow all those sports chit chatter on thing. When I heard that Lewandowski was moving from Bayern Munich, I thought that he would be a fit for Man United, if any was so, And then all of a sudden, he's gone to Barcelona, isn't it? It's more or less
where he went to.
Huh?
I didn't see where Lewandowski went to.
No, I think Lewandowski, the deal is more or less done for Barcelona, as far as I know, and I think that that's where he's gone, to Barcelona. Gareth Bale, there was his agents were in discussion initially with Cardiff City about Gareth Bale, but then he opted to go
LA.
on a 12-month contract to LA, Los Angeles, in the MLS, but he has apparently ties over there, and he's a lot of friends over, spent a lot of time over there, so it's a good contract for him, do you think? Obviously he wants it.
I don't know. It's like the English media seems to be obsessed with guys like Bale. He's not played in England for years. He's kind of done what he needed to do at Real Madrid, but he was on the fringes last season. From what I could see, he wasn't really an integral part of the squad. And is there any other guy that doesn't play in English football that garners as much attention from not being in the squad for a team?
He was running down the contract, I suppose one would call it. But obviously,
he's done well for himself, hasn't he?
Huh?
He's done well for himself.
He's done fantastically well, I must say that. And as well as that, Wales have qualified for the World Cup.
Now that's a story. That's a story.
No.
First time ever, or just first time in a long time?
The first time since 1958.
Wow.
No, there you go.
You're old enough to remember Northern Ireland in the 1982 World Cup in Spain.
Jerry Armstrong in '82, yes, I remember them in Spain. And
in '78, Scotland with Archie Gemmill.
That's right, '78 Scotland. Jeez, when I God almighty.
And then the Republic of Ireland with Jackie Charlton in '86 and '90, Mexico and Italy.
'86 was our apex for soccer in the Republic. I mean, we had a very good squad in from 82 to 92, roughly that era. You know, we had a veritable of who's who, like Liam Brady, Frank Stapleton, you know, John Aldridge, Packy Bonner. You had them all there. And then one of the most fantastic players I think we had, very underrated in the media, but he was fabulous, was Kevin Sheedy. I thought Kevin Sheedy was a fabulous player when he scored that goal against England. Well, of course, it made him, but anyway.
So is it Wales's turn amongst the sort of home nations to have something to shout about in the World Cup?
Well, I mean, Wales are there, England are there, and Scotland are in England's group, as you know, in the World Cup. And so I'll be looking forward to the England-Scotland match anyway, certainly that group, you know. And really, the World Cup, I mean, the controversy and all, we have to forget all about that now. The fact remains that it's going ahead, it's planned. 32 teams have qualified. They're going to Qatar in the winter time, all winter time, and they'll be participating in probably one of the most widespread sports on the planet, which is soccer. And it has its own excitement, the World Cup. Disappointing that we don't have Ireland there from an Irish point of view, but nevertheless, we will be familiar with many of the players, because a lot of the players that we will see with other countries are plying their trade in the English Premiership anyway, so we will be familiar with a lot of them. We'll have England, Scotland and Wales competing, along with, I don't know, there's quite robust talk about Argentina this time round, that it's not a one-man ship anymore. Of course, he's coming to the end of his career anyway. That's Lionel Messi. But Argentina are looking very impressive. I was watching some of their matches late at night. To me, they did anyway. I think they'll have a big say in the World Cup, Carl. I don't know about the other teams, European teams. You have the usual suspects with France, Germany, Belgium, flattering to deceive, are they?
Who knows? Brazil.
Yeah. Brazil. I didn't mention Brazil because
the World Cup. It's Brazil, and the conditions. Are they going to look to seek to make the conditions a bit more playable by having stadiums with roofs where they can manage the temperature and what have you, or is it going to be a case that you're going to just need to avoid getting boiled alive in the sun, and so the teams that can cope with the heat have a natural advantage?
Yeah, that could be the way. I don't know.
So but, England and Wales, like we can forget getting anywhere in that kind of heat, and then like Mexico come in and Argentina and Brazil, like you say, the teams that can cope with the heat.
No, you're with Carol and myself, Pat, here on the SportsView. And if you want to join us, please feel free to do so. Send us in your email. We'll send you the link, and you can come into the studio to discuss all we can. Coming up now later on in the show, after a small break for these notices, we'll be discussing rugby union, GA and all of that, etc. coming up over the weekend. So come back to us after about 30 seconds. Okay, we're back now with Carol and myself, and I should have bought my chocolate as well, but I didn't forget. There's out in the other studio if the lads out there might be mean something to chew on. But Carol, our rugby players, our rugby team are down under as we speak, and at 8:05 tomorrow morning, they'll be lining out for the first test against the All Blacks. I know you'll be up watching it.
No, I've no interest in the rugby, Pat. I can't speak to you much about that, I'm afraid.
I'm only joking. Now we'll be coming back to rugby later on because there'll be a few people coming to discuss it with us. Now over the weekend as well coming, and we also had the beginning of the Tour de France. It started today in Denmark. That's the first stage of the Tour de France, 2022, and it's on for the next month or so now. And there's still huge excitement. Of course, we don't appreciate it here, Carl, at this side of the world, because cycling has always been a huge sport in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in France, right, Spain, Italy. It's a hotbed of cycling for years and years, despite all the machinations that went on in the 80s and the 90s. It seemed to be getting back to some kind of prominence. Anyway, it started today in Denmark, and Eurosport are carrying every minute of every stage live, so you can watch it there as well. You know, we'll be talking to the lads on our Monday night slot on that. There'll be a few stages finished by then. They'll be giving us a sense of, I don't understand it myself, of what's the tactics and all of that as well, the role of each cyclist in the team. But also coming up, Carl, the weekend are the two All-Ireland hurling semi-finals.
Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And tomorrow, with the first one up, tomorrow will be Clare and Kilkenny, and coming up then on Sunday at 3:30 will be the holders of the champions Limerick will be playing Galway. But the one tomorrow between Clare and Kilkenny seems to be a match that people are having trouble calling because, you know, both teams are fancied more or less equally, depending on who you read on it. And of course, Clare drew with Limerick, as you know, in the championship. You know, didn't they draw with Limerick?
Well, given the last two performances that Clare put in against a very strong Limerick team, in fact, Limerick are probably one of the strongest teams we've ever seen in the modern history of the game. And in Ennis, Clare had one or two decisions go quite favourably for them, you could argue, but then in Thurles, in Semple Stadium for the Munster final, Clare took Limerick all the way. And I can honestly see Clare beating Kilkenny, Galway causing an upset, beating Limerick, and Clare winning it, beating Galway in the final. I can see it being Clare's year this year.
Really? Well, I mean, the
team so far from Tony Kelly and Clare's performances against Limerick, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, there has been very few interviews with players. I mean, I can't mention players' names that I've met personally because I live in Shannon, so it would be unfair to them. But I mean, there is there's the same buzz now as there was around 2013 for Clare when they beat Cork after a replay. You must remember there was a replay. They beat Cork, but nevertheless,
two amazing games that year. Yeah.
Oh, it's a absolute. I was at the drawn match, and I wasn't at the replay, but I was at the drawn match. It was just an absolute cracker. See, people that follow hurling, of course, if your team is beaten, it's disappointing. But you like to see your team going down, as you said, Carl, going down with fire in their bellies, as I say. And if they lose, they lose. Just like that Munster final between Clare and Limerick. I mean, there was one score separated the teams, at the end. And Clare gave as good as they got. Now, people were wondering, did it take a lot out of them, out of that Clare team? But sure, both teams were in the match, like helter-skelter, 100 miles an hour. Clare then came out and did the business in the quarterfinal against Wexford.
I didn't see that game, but I saw the highlights, and Wexford scored 3 goals, and Clare still managed to come through. So
I did it, yeah.
I feel it's their year. Yeah,
loads of points, and Cork came out then against Galway, who I had thought should have done it, and they didn't. That's Cork I'm talking about now. Very disappointing again. They had 2 bad matches in the Munster Championship. Then they had 2 good matches. Then they had a disaster against Galway, because I really feel that Galway team aren't up to much, and that's not because they beat Cork. I don't think they're up to much myself. And I think if there isn't a gap of 10 points in that match, I'll eat my hat between Limerick and Galway.
You think Limerick will steamroller Galway? It depends if they turn up on the day, right?
I think they will, because they're way too strong for Galway. Except to have one of those days where everything they do goes wrong, but I cannot see that happening, because they're around too long, number one. They're steady lads. And I think to be a Limerick Clare All-Ireland final again, it's looking on the cards like that anyway, It'll be the 3rd year, if Kilkenny are beaten, it'll be the 3rd year in a row that they were beaten in the All-Ireland semi-final, So they have something to get over as well themselves. I don't know about Kilkenny now, I don't know.
I'm amazed your man Cody's still going and doesn't call it a day.
He's there now since 1998, I think, and that's 24 years as manager. I don't know, has there been any manager in the history of the game that can keep the enthusiasm for hurling like he does. But obviously he was in a job as a headmaster school teacher, that would lend him to that. He taught a lot of those lads and involved in hurling, and so it was a natural progression for him. So, I mean, Cody played. I remember him playing. He played full back for Kilkenny, for people who may have known. I remember him playing in the 82 All-Ireland when they beat Cork, 82, I think, 82 and 83. Big, huge 6'4", 5" Christy Heffernan beat Cork on his own in 83. But we had our revenge in 1984, Carol. All right, I had to come to that. But you going back to the weekend, I mean, there are 2 games, standalone games. I said the one on tomorrow is Clare and Kilkenny. So you're calling that for Clare?
I think it'll be close. I take the analogy of the toss of a coin, and it could go down to the wire. And I fancy Clare just might nick it. Yeah.
And then on Sunday we have the traditional half-tree throw-in with Limerick and Galway. Now, you think that'll be a close match? You could be right. I
fancy Galway might provide an upset there. You never know.
Really?
Limerick are very strong favourites, yeah.
Well, I don't mind favourites, because that's just to make money for the bookies, as you know. We don't mind that, But, I mean, Limerick, Clare showed glimpses in that Munster final of how to tackle Limerick, how to go about maybe winning a match against them, but obviously with a team like Limerick, you have to play high octane hurling for the whole of the 70 or 80 minutes, not for half a match, because Limerick will Limerick can win a match in 10 minutes. If you drop your guard, they have the forwards, they have the athleticism, they have the fitness, they have the skill, they have it all, as you said, phenomenal team, And of course, they're online to make history, to win 3 All-Ireland senior hurling.
Yeah, the smart money is on a 3 in a row for Limerick. Yeah,
3 in a row, and the last team to do it was Kilkenny. Not many have done it. Tipperary have done it. Cork have done it on a number of occasions, and so Limerick would be making history. I mean, really, when you think about it. Of course, we mustn't forget, as you said, Carol, they only beat Galway by a point in the All-Ireland final in 18, you know. Joe Kenny nearly beat him that day on his own, you know, with the sideline cut.
If he turns up on Sunday, I can see Galway just putting a fly in the ointment there, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it'll be fascinating. It'll be something really good to look forward to. That's the hurling the weekend, and Declan can't come in. He can't come in tonight. That's okay. Someone talking to me, but anyway, I'm with Carol Ashley, Carol J. Ashley tonight with us in studio on SportsView, on Friday Night SportsView. We have 3 programs now going for our sins on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening on SportsView. They'll be on anyway, and if anybody, including yourself, anybody out there, lads, who are interested in talking about sport or any type of sport, just email us in here, info@theirmedia.tv. It's up there on the screen somewhere going across. And really, all you need to do is send us your email. We'll send you the link. And like Carol did tonight, you just press on the link, and hey presto, by magic, you're in the studio to discuss whatever you like, you know. So that's all you need to do. Of course, the Irish Open golf is on at the moment, Carol, up there in Kilkenny, in Mount Juliet. Did you ever play golf?
No, I played once in Alberta in Canada with my uncle, and had an exhilarating moment where I played something like a 3-iron about 200 yards away, and it landed next to the hole. And I realized how addictive it could possibly be because of the thrill of just that one shot alone.
Yes.
But I managed to resist ever playing in England or Ireland. So I only ever played once in Canada, and most of my time was spent in the buggy driving my uncle around, which was fun. But there you go.
Yeah, it is addictive. I played it myself for a few years, but then gave it up. But at the Irish Open, just for people who might be tuning in, and we'll let you know the state of play after the first day, up to the second day. Campillo from Spain is -11, and Zanotti is -10. He's from Paraguay. He's playing his trade in Europe for years and years. And Seamus Power from Waterford is at -8. And Corley Harrington and Shane Lowry are -3, so they'll make it for the weekend. They're 8 off the lead. But really, Mount Juliet is a fabulous course. Of course, there'll be a big crowd there. Corley Harrington, of course, Carolina, mind you, Corley Harrington is over 50 now, so he's in the seniors tour in America. And last week he won the first seniors majors, the US Open seniors trophy. He won it last week in America, which is fantastic for him. Of course, Corley Harrington's dad is Paddy Harrington from Ardrigole in West Cork. Paddy Harrington, he played senior football with Cork. That's Paddy Harrington, that's Corley's dad. And so we're calling him a Corkman, okay? we don't care where he's from, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, his father was a handy bit of gear, as I said, a bit of stuff on the Cork team, Paddy Harrington. But Shinsky, that's the golf. And the tennis, of course, it's all tennis this week as well, Carol, in Wimbledon, where we have tennis galore. And I know some people are interested in that. Some people find it interesting, tennis, and it's obviously there's very few sports on now because with the soccer season over, of course, I mean, this is the 1st of July as we're sitting here. So you only have another, 6 weeks to 7 weeks till you have the soccer again, Carl? Do you think so?
Maybe less with the World Cup in November. Maybe they're planning to kick off a little bit earlier.
And looking at the state of soccer in Britain, and obviously it's a big business now. It's not a local team anymore, you know, with all the local lads from Manchester, all the local lads from London, all the local lads in the East End to play at the local team. It's huge, big business now. And we were just chatting here one night. I mean, I remember going down to Kenilworth Road in the 1970s to see Luton Town, you know. I remember going to Loftus Road to see QPR in the 1970s, and you could touch the players and they'd shake your hand. And all of that. I mean, am I harping back to a situation that is no more, is forever gone?
It's a double-edged sword. You see, back in those days, you didn't have dietitians, you didn't have psychologists, you didn't have the money in the game. But then you had drink, and everything revolved around drink. Drinking before the game, drinking at half time, drinking after the game, and the players, the culture of drink. The game revolved around drinking. And so you look at the modern incarnation of the game today. Yeah, there's money in the game. Yeah, it's changed and transformed in such a way that's not recognizable from the game we knew from the 70s and 80s. But it's cleaned up as well. You know, these days you can't drink and play, and certainly not to the optimum levels, or like Paul McGrath's autobiography there, where he talks about coming on the pitch after 8 and 9 pints and getting man of the match. You know, those days are gone. So I think there is a bit of rose-tinted spectacles back in 68, 69, when the Manchester City team that won the old second division got promoted to the first division, won that, and then won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1970. They were all Manchester lads. Those days are gone. You won't get a team of 11 lads from the same place. These days, if you've lads like Phil Foden in the team that are local, and you've got 1 or 2 lads that are local, then that's as much as you can expect. It's truly a global product these days. And if the best players become available, no one really cares where they're from, you know, although there is a premium for good young English players. But there is a romanticism about the game of the 70s and 80s for sure. But you have to remember it was all about drink then as well, you know.
That's true, but I only have my own personal opinion, obviously, Carol, and there's no way would I pay €110 to see Man United or Man City or Liverpool playing in Anfield. Well, it's not Main Road anymore. There's no way in the wide world would I give €110 to a corporation to see a pretend soccer team playing pretend football for a pretend crowd. That's my opinion, the way it's gone. To see 3 Senegalese and 1 Egyptian and a couple of French people and a token Englishman playing. To me, I think that's farcical. That's just me. Am I all wrong? Am I all mixed up?
No, you set your stall out with what you'll accept and what you'll tolerate and where your boundaries are. I paid a lot of money to go and see a semi-final in 2016. We were home against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi, and it was 0-0. And the man of the match was our keeper. And it was a thoroughly enjoyable occasion because we'd never reached the dizzy heights of a European semi-final before in a long, long time. These days now we're expected to get to the semi-finals in Europe with a Manchester City side that plays attacking football, exciting football, one of the best managers in the game, and a club philosophy that's holistic, that promotes the women, the kids, and the club throughout, as well as work in the community. So there's a lot of good work going on at the club, and the first team's sort of exploits are all you really see in the media, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. It's not just a money game, but you do need money to compete at the top levels for sure, you know.
You think that Pep stayed on in the hope that he might be able to win the European Cup this year, I believe, is it?
Yeah, I think that's the holy grail. The owners set out a blueprint in 2012. Took them 3 or 4 years to get him into the club, and he's revolutionised English football. I have a friend who runs a kids team in Norwich, and you know they play out from the back. Like when Guardiola came to England 3 or 4 years ago and started playing out from the back, using the keeper, drawing the opposition onto you to create space in the middle. They all said, it's not going to work. You can't play tiki-taka stuff in England. And sure enough, here we are. And, you know, the man's a genius. But until he wins a European trophy with City, will he be regarded as a success? Possibly not.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be that. I mean, obviously, I know what you're saying. The press is saying until he does this and that. But look, soccer, of course, I mean, I mean, it always comes down to luck as well. You know,
Very
in a
fine
match.
margins, yeah.
Yeah, no matter how talented the 11 or 15 players you have picked, there's always an element of chance. There's always a mistake. There's always something can happen in a game. So therefore, you have to allow for that. You know. But I think that obviously the way the European Cup worked out this year, I mean the luck was with Real Madrid.
They pulled off an incredible run of games. If you look at PSG, Chelsea,
Exactly.
come back against City when they were dead and buried.
Yeah.
And in the final, it was probably, I suppose, the least dramatic of the games. But you could argue that Liverpool dominated that without necessarily, making it look like they deserved to win.
I think
An
Madrid's
interesting run for sure. But is there a corruption there? Could you argue that the upper echelons in UEFA wanted to ensure that Real Madrid won that?
You could speculate on that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, well, it wouldn't have won the whole thing, but I mean, and Gareth Bale now will have Cellini from Italy, Cellini as his teammate. You know that?
In LA, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Whilst we were chatting, I actually pulled up the groups, the World Cup groups for Qatar in November. So I don't know if you want to speak to a bit about that.
Let's call out England's group if you have it there, Carl.
Well, I've got Group A is Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands.
No, Senegal and the Netherlands will come out of that.
Ecuador could be an upset there. You wouldn't expect Qatar to do much.
No.
England's group, you've got England, Iran, the USA, and Wales.
England, the USA are handy. England, Iran, USA, and Wales. I'll tell you. What would you think? How do you think that'll go yourself?
Any one of them can get out of that. I'd say Wales could do that.
Wales and Iran, is it? We're picking in that one.
I'm loath to back England, even as an Englishman. Yeah.
Yeah.
USA and Iran might be interesting from a geopolitical perspective.
Yes.
Group 3 is Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland.
Well, Argentina, as I said, I fancied Argentina.
You fancy them, yeah.
And obviously Poland looks like another one coming out of that. I don't know.
Again, I think Mexico could handle the heat a bit better than the Polish.
That's what we have to take into consideration now as well, of course, yeah.
Group D is France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia.
Yeah.
You have to say French. The French look strong there,
Yeah, you'll have to say France. And I think that obviously, who else isn't that?
Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia.
Denmark and Tunisia for the runners-up then. I said them on that.
Group E, Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan.
Oh, no.
So Spain and Germany would be two heavyweights there.
And you have Costa Rica and Japan. Japan are capable. Japan would be capable. They could get a result.
And then Group F, you've got Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia.
Oh, Canada have improved out of all our. I've been following the Canadian team myself, the soccer team, and they're doing extremely well. Extremely well. They've made huge headway as a soccer nation. That's Canada now, You have Canada. Who else is in that?
Belgium, who you'd expect to be quite strong with the individuals they have.
I don't have much go for them now.
Morocco and Croatia.
Croatia be tough enough, wouldn't they?
They got to the semi-finals there the last time around, didn't they?
They did.
And Morocco, you'd expect, could cope with the heat more than the other teams.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a factor in many of those groups,
So Group G, you've got Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon.
Whoa, that's a heavyweight group.
It is, because Switzerland, they're easy to rule out, but they always seem to get there or thereabouts.
You won't beat Switzerland by 4 or 5 goals any day.
They are a strange side because they don't really have the star players, do they? But they seem to perform as a team very well.
Exactly.
But you still couldn't see them beating Brazil.
You wouldn't bet on them at all beating Brazil.
No.
Cameroon are weak enough now at the present time, you know.
So you'd fancy Brazil and Serbia from that group, would you?
I'd call it for the two of them, yeah. I'd call it for the two of them.
Finally, Group H, you've got Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea.
Whoa, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Well, Uruguay would be my favourites to top the group in that thing.
Again, they can cope with the heat, and they've got the pedigree.
They have a nice team.
Ghana are one of the strongest African sides. They're up there with Senegal.
Ghana will be tough. And Portugal, I don't rate them at all.
Portugal are an excellent side. They're one of the top tier teams in Europe.
Yeah, they're an aging team though.
They could go all the way, Pat. They might be a nice shady outside bet if you get them 16-1 to win the World Cup. I'd keep an eye out on Portugal.
Do you think they will?
It depends if the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. They've some outstanding players.
So if you... Oh, sure, I forgot about Nunes. Forgot about him.
The lads at City there, Diaz at the back and Bernardo Silva. We've some brilliant Portuguese players.
I'm forgetting myself. Portugal, you're saying will come out of that group with Ghana.
I don't know. I fancy Uruguay might get out of there as well. They're an excellent team.
Sorry, I said Uruguay and Portugal, yeah?
Yeah.
They should come out of that. Now, England, how far do you think England will go in this World Cup?
I don't know, but as usual, the English media will overinflate the expectations. And Gareth Southgate, if he doesn't get to a quarter-final at least, will be lambasted and hung, drawn and quartered in public.
But they were destroyed by Hungary down in Molineux.
Well, you'd think they'd have enough about them to beat the USA and or Iran and or Wales, wouldn't you?
You would, but the manager, to me, he has no experience of managing a big team ever in soccer, ever.
But he's got Phil Foden, Pat. He's got some Man City players there. He's got Raheem Sterling. He's got Phil Foden, and now Calvin Phillips, Kyle Walker. He's got a backbone of English Man City players.
Now you're certainly making a case for him to go out in the first round anyway by nearly most of them.
I can't get excited for England. It's City all the way for me.
I mean, Southgate, as a manager, they had every opportunity in the European Championship, playing all home games in a home stadium, and he absolutely bottled it as a manager.
I think you could say that Italy deserved that on the day, if I recall.
Carl, on the penalty shootout, the manager decides, and the decision on the penalty shootout was shocking. 3 young lads, will you go away? 3 young lads to take a penalty in Europe. Their first, one of them came on as a sub. I thought, if I was he'd have got the bullet that night for me anyway, no doubt about it.
Well, it goes one of either two ways. It could have come off and he could have looked like a genius.
Are you telling me that England will win the World Cup with Harry Maguire as a world-class defender?
I'd say if they even get out of that group, maybe a quarter-final. It depends how they cope with the conditions.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of teams there that you'd look at that you'd say were better than England and would be more likely to go further. I fancy Brazil. And I think Portugal might be a good outside bet.
So you'll be sticking to the traditional Brazil with an outside bet for Portugal. I mean, obviously, I'll be going for Argentina, and I wouldn't disagree with you because I'd forgotten about the Portuguese players you mentioned. You know, they weren't in my memory bank, and I think maybe I agree with you there. Portugal be an outside bet, and I don't know if Belgium, on an individual player level, they have top world class players in their squad. You know, Belgium I'm talking about. And if anybody could surprise anybody by going into a World Cup final, they could do it.
Yeah, they've been thereabouts for the last decade or so, haven't they? With the quality of players they're producing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, from all our listeners, Carl, it's been a blast again on this edition of SportsView. I'm delighted to have you along. For the people,
no worries. We'll see how the Clare, Kilkenny, and Galway Limerick games pan out this weekend. I'm sorry I can't talk to you much about the golf or the rugby.
Why not? No, as well as that, Carl, we're predicting. I'm predicting a Limerick Clare all-on, and you're predicting a Clare Galway.
I fancy Clare will win it, and they've more chance of winning it against Galway than Limerick. But I think Clare will do
it. You heard it here on SportsView with Carl Ashley and myself. So we meet again now, Carl. Take care, buddy, and good sailing wherever it may take you. And goodbye for now. We'll see you again, Carl. Take care.
Enjoy your weekend, Pat. God bless.
I will indeed, and thank you.